Welcome back, venturers. It's time for another discussion about VNs. I am Emar, and together with Tauros, we've been judged. Our sentence is live reading VNs. It's the finale episode of Book Club regarding Criminal Border series, so expect heavy spoilers as well as us voicing our opinions on the title and the whole series itself. Tauros, if you could bring us up to speed, where did we left off last time?
Yes, again, big spoilers. Spoilers for Criminal Border across the whole series now as we wrap our journey up. Here we are in the fourth and final episode, Life Sentence. And to recap where we've been so far, Itsuki has done a pretty good job, all things considered, of raising their new group Nest into top dogs of the criminal underworld, but it's not enough. They need to take down the Umonkai, and as the Umonkai strike back by eliminating Hina, now the syndicate is evolved, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff that could alter Itsuki's quest for revenge against the Umonkai. That's where we left off anyways, and, well, Criminal Border, Life Sentence sure wraps everything up by the end, doesn't it, Emar?
For better or worse, yes, I would say so. We'll get to that, which parts I did like popped up and which I did not. But honestly, I'll open this segment by saying, in the past, in the previous volumes, when it came to the beginnings of each volume, a lot of the time they dealt with busy work, and this was such a snooze fest a lot of the time. I'll give credit to volume 4, because dealing with the MDs propagating Nest was an improvement. It was way more engaging than the previous obstacles they faced.
Really?
I'll give them credit. Not too much, by the way, don't get a hold of yourself, but it was definitely improvement over the previous struggles they had.
To be fair, I wouldn't count that as an improvement. I hated all the stuff involving the MD in Life Sentence. I was like, all right, revenge plot, let's go. We're kicking it into high gear finally. We got the Syndicate, they're big players. We got, Itsuki, and even better, we've got the other characters in Nest, how they have some complicated relationships and goals as well. And what do? We have to go down into the little minuete of MD's leadership problems. It's like, we've got some factions in MD who don't really like us, but then we got the old stogies with the Umonkai, and I'm like, I don't care at all. Who the hell are these people? Why do we now have to get our feet wet digging into the weeds with this little subgroup that we ended off third offense just being completely in charge of? Now it's like, oh wait, no, we're not actually in charge. Now we got to wrap this up. And I'm like, why? Why do we have to
know what's funny?
Get us off of
really
this,
funny?
Back to the important stuff. Yeah?
Your frustration is exactly mirrored by the protagonist. He wants to just get that shit over with. Just shut the fuck up. Can we progress with our revenge plot? And then he says, you know what? Fuck the money. I don't even need more cut. And they are like, ooh. He probably treats us like babies. Like, what the fuck? Your frustration is exactly mirrored by the protagonist trying to get that shit out of his way, which is hilarious. And that's why I say it's vaguely interesting, because from the emotional standpoint, as a reader, I don't care. Get that shit out of my way. Can we get to shooting? I mean, obviously, I'm broadly generalizing, but yes, I agree with you. But at the very least, it recognizes it's not as simple as, okay, let's get all the guns and storm the castle. You need to prepare. And it's freaking frustrating to prepare if you want to act now. From that standpoint, I give them credit, but holy shit, I was not engaged in the MD plotline of Inui guy that has a problem with another faction. Like, sure, just solve it. You hand-waved in the past. All 3 volumes, all the problems you hand-waved away. Please hand wave it again, and can we move on? I agree with you.
See, I really like this MD plot, though, in regards to highlighting the differences between Itsuki and his other nest members. Because he and Tatsuya, their mindset is getting warped by revenge. They're fully willing to storm in, kill everyone who disagrees, and leave it at that. Whereas you have the other characters who immediately point out that, we didn't need to go that far. Just show up and explain how much money they could be making, and they'll get their stuff together just fine. And I think that was a great highlight in showing just, how far gone Itsuki is starting to get, and how much the other characters are getting worried about him and his mental state. But the thing is, we didn't need all the MD drama going on to get there, I wish it was something better than that. That's what I mean.
Fair, because I was going to say, probably part of what made this preparation phase tolerable is reading about Itsuki's deteriorating mental state and how he keeps talking with Hina. And unlike Volume 3, this time, people around him notice that he's talking to himself.
That was a very sweet addition. Really, it's basically one of the high points. One of the best things about Criminal Border is its characters. And we do get to see so much depth to the characters, what they mean to each other, and also how much they change over the course of this 4-part series. And it's highlighted most of all, of course, by our main character, Itsuki. He went from the very first chapter to being a friendless, zero-confidence loser. And now he's grown, he's become more self-assured, he's made more connections with all sorts of new people around him, but also we're getting near to the end of life sentence, and he's also getting consumed by rage. We get to see our main character go on a journey that we don't often see in visual novels. It's still a medium where a lot of developers will prefer to play it safe. And I like how we did get some change, how we got some very non-heroic aspects in him sometimes throughout the course of this series. I think that is a high point.
I completely agree.
That's a good point. Border.
And in a way, the way he is right now had a very consuming / corrupting effect on Rin, the main heroine of this volume. And yes, part of the reason is that she wanted to step in and step up her involvement. But every single time she accompanied Itsuki, she saw how far gone he is and how uncomfortable everything around this is making her.
Even before life sentence, I was starting to wonder, is Rin the actual main character here? And I mean, that's not even taking anything away from Itsuki. It's just, she also showed so much main character growth and potential and effects over the whole course of the series. And then of course we get this final entry where she's just straight up the narrator from her perspective for several scenes. She really falls into this role.
That was interesting. That other perspective when she was the night. I agree. That was something. Although when it comes back to the main heroine, so to speak, it has to be Hina. Unquestionably so. Unquestionably so. Because unlike other characters, she's never relegated in the background. She's ever present, which is crazy to say, given that she's not with them anymore, right? Yeah. But still, she was so important in this title.
Same here. Hina is best girl. She did so much. It's I suppose you could say it's a little bit of a cliche sometimes to have the popular, flirty, sociable girl who looks like an airhead to actually be very smart in her own way. And Hina demonstrated it over time. But she's also very, I guess, emotionally aware of others, and she has a great knack for planning ahead. in this way, she has the kind of personality that means she can keep staying involved in the plot even after the first episode where she's no longer main heroine of the week. And we can start seeing a lot of potential to her, not just as a heroine, but as her own character in this story. Yeah?
Yeah, I completely agree. Although, with all that said, the Hina we got for the Volume 4 is definitely not the Hina we remember, which was also a very interesting aspect of this volume. How that character became warped in the mind of Itsuki into very vengeful being.
Oh my god, yeah, that's so good. Just the whole aspect of Hina's ghost being constantly in Itsuki's mind. Because she still acts like Hina, how she's still aware of other people's emotions and thinks of, they must be acting this way because they're feeling so-and-so, which is very much a not Itsuki way of thinking. So it's really funny that, like, either he's subconsciously putting himself through this mindset, or, like, she's speaking beyond the grave to his psyche or something. But either way, that's really sweet, how she's still a guiding voice to him, even in the afterlife. Aww.
Exactly, yeah, and I feel like at some point his mental state has been so warped, it also warps her ghost, right? Hina goes into very, will you avenge me? Avenge me! And like, okay, that segment was psychotic, to say the least.
Yeah, yep, very true. On a different note, as much as these were positives, there's one thing that kind of feels like a negative to me, and that's the portrayal of this digital drug rave throughout the series.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
What do
you think, MR?
That's my biggest disappointment. Holy shit. My biggest disappointment is rave. Absolutely. I am so annoyed that the digital aspect of rave has been so unexplored. What the fuck? I said that in previous volume.
Yeah,
Please experiment more with rave. Make something more out of it. And I didn't mean like that, because the way I experiment in this volume, we'll get to that at some point. That's not what I meant. Like, come on, you had a digital drug. Can I repeat it once more? Digital. Why that aspect was never explored in any way?
We did get it explored, though. I mean, first offense and second offense, there's so much of the brainstorming that tries to figure out how they can spread it, optimally without it getting stolen,
Yeah, but now it's a revenge story. It's time to take rave in offensive mode. Infect smartphones. Use it offensively. Use the fact it's a program in any way.
Yes. See, that's where I'm coming from, where something that was part of the premise, the whole thing that made this so unique, it had a shaky influence. And by the time we get to Life Sentence, it's like, I put down in my notes, like just half an hour into Life Sentence, I was like, okay, let's take bets on if we are going to actually see rave used at all in this story. And I was like, half credit if it only gets used once for their climatic takedown of Goro and the Umonkai. And to be honest, now after finishing Life Sentence, I don't think it counts. The only time we see rave, actually used in any sort of influence is that like torture dungeon room at the end that Rin and Itsuki got put through, and that barely counts. It's just a drug. And that's where I'm coming from. In like the entire second half, from third offense on, rave is just a drug. It's just a product. It's just something. It's just the object of the nest having power and their influence getting spread, and something for other people to fight for and use as a bargaining chip. We lost a lot of the uniqueness involved. It's just, you might as well replace it with any sort of drug, and that's its influence in the story from there on out. It's so different from first offense and second offense, when it's something new he discovered that's maybe sorta not addictive and illegal, and especially in second offense when he starts tweaking it to improve the factor and when he makes that weapon out of it. That's the uniqueness I was hoping for out of Criminal Border,
Exactly.
The one thing that made it different.
Importantly, no one really knows about the offensive version. Like, Couldn't that be his
Oh,
secret weapon
yeah.
of sorts?
Yeah, that's true.
What the hell?
I didn't realize, but yeah, he never told people about the version he made that causes nausea on people for an hour.
Exactly. Only Meryl and Kotoko have known.
Jeez. There could have been all sorts of new possibilities. Just any sort of idea. Something to show
Anything.
someone, and it can create whatever effect the authors want to make up. Instead, it just becomes a very generic drug, just for the plot purposes of a story.
And that would make such a believable weapon to take on something more powerful, that being the Umonkai, with something that is serving as equalizer. Even if it wasn't used, at the very least, it could have been prepared. But that has never been even in conversation, which is crazy to me. Why not?
Yep. We lost a lot of what was cool about the premise.
Think about the next step. Think one step ahead. And I really don't want to turn this episode into potential and speaking about potential. But let me end on this note. If that would be the way they explore the digital aspect of Rave, then if someone would know those plans in any way, shape, or form, they could develop countermeasures, whatever those could be.
Oh, a digital arms race.
the digital firewall for your digital drug or digital detox. I don't know. That aspect has never been explored, ever. Heck, I was thinking, and it's part of my notes and completely didn't come true, by the way. I was thinking, maybe one of the plot twists here would be that you have a Rave version from Syndicate. Because they got a hold on that in previous volume.
Yeah, he did. You know, that was part of his bargaining chip, is that he gave Rave to the Syndicate. You're right.
So what if they did experiment and got a new variant that you don't know about? But no, I guess no.
No.
That's my biggest disappointment. Rave itself. God damn it.
Yeah. Speaking of low points, well, maybe not low points, but things that I was disappointed with in Criminal Border. There's Rave, for one thing. Another is just how empty and boring most of the script of most of the script of Criminal Border was. There's some good moments. Like I said, the characterization is great, and some of the moments just pop out with how gripping they are. Like when, what's it, Soji or Koji? I keep forgetting his name. Koji. When he's, pulls out a knife and now we're in a life and death situation. Or when Shinonome stares us down in the diner telling us how much, Hina has been killed and all of that. And how all of the trauma just gets dumped on Itsuki. It's got great moments. But there are so few of them, and instead we have so much time talking. So many people talking and planning and just kind of considering how their business plan is going to develop.
Do you want some cola?
I want some cola, dude. Hey, do we want to text each other on the phone to keep ourselves updated? Oh my gosh.
I think the question about do you want some cola happened so many times, it's ingrained in my mind now.
Hey, are you free right now? Hold up, let me go back home and then I'll talk to you there. We don't actually see much happen. And it's a shame because we get told a bunch of stuff is happening. We get told that Dredd are pushing around so much product around in the scene. We get told that the teacher guy is holding screenings with his rich buddies of Rave all around town. We get told that, Mad Dog are seeing this all for free and it's spreading everywhere. But we never see any of it happen itself. The series gets a little better about it later on, especially in Third Offense, where we actually, tag along with Meryl as she's doing debt collections. And that goes a long way towards conveying just how serious and, a little psychopathic she is with her job. But still, there's so much world building that we just kind of have to take at face value that someone said, hey, this is happening out there, and we're like, oh, okay. Like in Life Sentence, where Kotoko says, "Hey, I've been building up my own faction of Umankai's supporters, so that when I usurp my father, they'll all follow me instead." And it's like, oh, okay, well, I really would have liked to see any of that.
Exactly. Why? Okay. In this series, they were so content on wasting time and text on menial conversation, getting another can of cola or bottle of cola. Why did they not waste some time in misdirection? What I mean by that, okay? How many times did they visit the Umankai residence of Goro before this volume? I think in totality 3 times.
Maybe?
I remember they were summoned and they have confronted Goro. And one more, I think, time. So 3 times.
Okay. At least twice.
So, yeah. So how many times guardsmen at the front check their weapons? How many?
I don't recall.
And not a single one. But they made a point in this volume to do so because it's bullshit, Sham, and we'll get to that. Yeah, it's so unbelievable that we'll get to the second part, but how easily you could have solved the twist you were trying to build up if you spent more time wasting, quote unquote, dialogue on misdirection on points that matter to build up the twist later down the line. But they never did that.
Well, okay. I mean, that's its own topic as well, about just how the plot could have been better at selling all of the danger involved and the setting up the misdirections for the plays and stuff. Just, continuing what I said, there's one thing I just remembered. In that, speaking of important places, the club. Their club is a very integral part of their operations. It's where they have their own, I guess you could say, individual viewing parties of Rave with all the wealthy clients with the individual rooms, and they've got some of the escort girls there as well. They meet really often at their club,
Yep.
Every time they meet, it's outside of working hours.
Convenient.
Not once do we ever get to see their club, one of the most important aspects of their operation, just in use. We just have to hear that things are going well and it's making money and they're making connections with all of these wealthy clients and all their political power involved.
You know what?
And yet we never, ever get to see it in action. One time, Luca drops by in Life Sentence. Yes. During hours. And it's the same background, and the only difference is just that we just get told there's some people in the private rooms, and she walks away off screen as Itsuki just stands there in the doorway, and she comes back and like, oh, okay, yeah, so that's how things are going here. And it's like, okay, wow, I didn't get to see that.
Why not? Exactly. Why the hell not? Why?
This is supposed to be the lifeblood of Nest, and yet the entire series, it's just them talking in an empty room. That's the extent we get of seeing any part of all this rich world building. We just get told. Characters say it, and we just kind of have to take it at face value of what's going on outside of these doors. It's one of the reasons I think that just so much of Criminal Border is boring. There's so many important topics and there's so many interesting things going on, but it doesn't matter if you're just looking at it from the outside, through a window glass. You just gotta assume that everything they're saying is the truth and that's what's going on. And I feel like that's just something that doesn't really cause any interest, any gripping you. Not like any of the other characterization stuff or any of the big hype moments that go on in Criminal Border. I wish we could have seen more.
Yeah, I agree. There's such a big gap between the high moments and the average moments, let's say. You know what? I'm going to open a different kind of question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any music from this game? I remember 3 tracks, exact 3. Okay? Because those were amazing, in my opinion. Character background music for Kotoko.
Yeah.
Because it has that Yakuza vibe, the traditional Japanese. Mareeck background music, because it has that aura of mysteriousness and kind of remind me of a spy movie, right?
Yeah.
And the bells when it's super dramatic, tense moment. Those 3 were amazing. You know, when that was the grim moments when Hina fate was revealed, etc. So that has a very specific bells ringing, slow tone of music.
Oh yeah, it's just like that one brown note all in the background.
Yeah.
I think it only got used like twice. I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was impactful when it was used. Okay.
Absolutely.
But tell me, can you remember the character theme of Rin?
Did she have a character theme?
Every single character had a character theme. Like I said, Kotoko, Mareeck, Hina, Rin, all of them had.
Huh?
Do you remember? Me neither. Whatever.
To be fair, I do remember more tracks than that, but that was more so just because they got repeated for every entry here. So this is like 30 hours of hearing these same tracks. I wasn't terribly impressed with the soundtrack.
And like I said, I wanted to exemplify the gap because the tracks that really were, holy hell, do I remember them. Even when I speak to you and try to describe the bells, I hear that in my head when I say it.
Yeah. Same.
But the average, I just tuned out completely. I mean, I guess that there was some dress, I guess, but even that wasn't anything noticeable. It was generic bad school music number 3.
Yeah, exactly. And considering that you're paying for each entry, and that these are all taking like 6 months to develop, you would think you would get more than just one new track in each episode.
You'd hope, yeah.
Yeah, so that wasn't terribly impressive either. Speaking now, as for some of the specific plot points in Life Sentence, raise your hand if you saw it coming that Tatsuya was doing a fake betrayal to get involved with the Umonkai.
Immediately, right? There were so many things that signal that this is not the way. No. I know, Life Sentence, you're being very cute, trying to misdirect me and saying that Tatsuya is the biggest betrayal. I believe in the bro code. No way. He is the biggest bromance. No fucking ways he ever betraying that. Not only that, I don't think there is a way out. I feel like the story writers didn't have any other out. You were in such a position. I don't know how the story could have gone if that was true, that Tatsuya betrayed. Like, that was such a... I don't know how to describe it. You have put yourself in such a situation. That's the only logical conclusion. Not only that, my head started blasting alarm bells in the sequence of events. Okay. So they formulate a plan. Tatsu and Itsuki and say, let's do our gamble. And I see the word gamble. I'm like, this is such an easy word to use that has plausible deniability, how it's used. Itsuki arrived at the scene, he gets captured, gamble didn't pay off. But you can use that word in so many different ways because the gamble can be far more reaching than just immediate consequence of current rate. So, hilariously enough, on the previous episode, I told you that there are moments in Criminal Border that completely lock me in and I'm focused.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I made that point that sometimes when I read VNs, I divide my focus. I can respond to messages who wants to reach to me, but if something is gripping, I do not exist for the rest of the world. And They did it reasonably well, but this time, I stood up. I went to the kitchen. I grabbed myself a bottle of whiskey, came back to the office, poured one glass, and I immediately spammed Ange, who I know finished the criminal ball, and said to him, this is how it will go. I do not believe for a moment Tatsu has betrayed him. Let me write it down how it will go. And obviously I was reading in real time and narrating to him. It was hilarious that no matter how the game tried to misdirect it, Tatsu being the bastard who betrayed Itsuki, etc., everything slowly folded into the plan that they discussed in the past. How he has to earn their trust, go into the residence, and inside the residence, Meryl has to pass him the weapon. And whenever they get to Goro, Kotoko has to be present there to witness the assassination of the head of Umonkai for her to take control. Everything is exactly according to Keikaku. Okay?
But like you said, I feel like it couldn't have gone any other way.
Yep.
Maybe it could have, but I don't know if I was really expecting that out of this work.
Yeah, exactly.
Ironically, when on that night when Itsuki gets captured and he calls Tatsuya to hear firsthand how he betrayed him. The excuse he went with was, oh, I gotta look after my dread boys. Otherwise, they're gonna get in trouble. And I'm like, no, get out of here. That's stupid.
Nope. This is such garbage excuse. No.
That's a terrible excuse. But ironically, there's a later scene when Tatsuya's getting the stuffing beat out of him in the criminal cliche basement by the gang guys. He goes on about how, money is the most important thing. That's the only way to get power. It's the only way to accomplish anything you want in life, and all those other emotions about revenge and stuff just gets in the way of the real goal. It has to be about money, and the only way to make money is to work with the Umonkai. I was like, okay, that was a much more believable reason. If he had said that as that initial reaction on that night, instead of that stuff about his dread henchmen that he's got to look after, I would have been a little iffy. I wouldn't have known. I could believe that because Tatsuya has held that opinion all throughout the entire series. He's been single-mindedly focused on earning money so that he can acquire what he wants in life, because that's the only method of power that works. That's the only thing available to him. So if he was consistent about that and he gave that as his reason, maybe I would have been fooled. I'm a pretty gullible reader. I go along with whatever the story tells me. So I don't know how effective. To you, there was probably no helping it.
No. The way they made a foreshadowing of a future twist, I think I've seen it so many times. Such a misdirection of saying, yeah, but we said gamble, but we didn't specify which gamble, okay? And to that point, I want to go back to something I alluded before. Multiple times that they entered the residence of Umonkai, never ever having been shown that they were checked for weapons. But Tatsuya was. Because they need to establish how he got a weapon. And VN scriptwriters, for whatever reason, tend not to waste words. So when I saw
they don't tend to waste words, huh, buddy?
Yeah. I know what you're now going to. I meant they don't create scenes that are unnecessary. Obviously, if you have a scene interacting with the character that you have, then you can write 7 times that they need cola. Okay, fine. I know what I understand the direction you wanted to take this in. I get it. What I'm saying is they purposefully created a scene of checking for weapons and saying, yeah, surely he has no weapons. Because by showing that they have plausible deniability, now we can say that it's part of the plan. He gets checked, he doesn't have weapons, he goes inside, Mary is going to frenzy, hits him in the in the chest, but actually secretly gives him the weapon. This is exactly how it will go. And it's exactly how they planned in the past.
Mm-hmm. Well, with all of this said, I still like the ending, though.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like all the steps that it took to get there. You know, the plot went in some really weird directions at times, and some eye-rolling parts. But the ending seemed very nice. You know, we have that Hank... we are led to believe that both Tatsuya and Itsuki died in their pursuit of getting revenge. And we see the other characters. There's, you know, Meryl is free, and now Kotoko is leader of the Monkai. Rin, she had the tragic goodbye, and she's trying to live her normal life the best she can, full of regrets and guilt. Again, I mean, the characters, they were the highlight, and seeing the ending to them, that was all great.
Listen, you claim yourself to be gullible reader, then I'll claim myself as a sucker for good ending. So, okay, I'll say it. Okay, fine, the ending was nice. It was very slightly tropey in how they solved it. That, yes, I will kill you, but I'll give you a new name. I'm like, okay, sure. That's how they made an excuse with Mafia. Okay, they killed the idea of this character, of the main protagonist, but give him the false identity and he has to go into exile. I get it.
Yeah.
That's cutesy. Okay. And that's how he got out of the criminal underground. Okay, that's cutesy. That's really nice, good ending. Okay, fine. You got me on the good ending.
Especially when the title screen looks different. Oh, that's peak. I'm a sucker for that. Peak. I love that so much. Then we get the ending shot of well, their names aren't Itsuki and Tatsuya anymore, unfortunately. But they're at the sea. He held that promise. He wanted to go to the sea. And then the camera pans up to the sky, and then title screen. Here it is, that shot of the sky. I'm like, oh, my feels. Yep. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. That stuff is great.
Yeah, that shit was good. That was fire.
Unfortunately, for a lot of the reasons we already covered, Criminal Border had so much... Like 80% of reading Criminal Border was either boring or even frustrating at times. But there were the moments that, you know, really gripped you with all of the interest and the danger and the struggles of being in the criminal underworld. And there were the characters along the way. Like I mentioned with Rin, she transformed so much from the beginning to the end. Even though she's someone who's supposed to be in the background, who we see the least out of all the main characters, but like you said, seeing how she goes from being, you know, the very shifty, you know, almost brutish, and how she told Itsuki, hey, use rave on Kotoko, because that's our only path to success, and you can either cry about it or get serious. And then over time, you know, she's getting more and more worried every time she sees Itsuki and how she's starting to become a monster. And then we see the guilt when Hina's dead and how much she blames herself for everything ending up like this. See, as much as I hate how the plot just ignores so much of what happens, instead they're great when it comes to Rin. We see so much firsthand about herself, her actions, her expressions, what she says and how she acts. We see so much of it firsthand. That's true. Yeah, and it's great. Yeah.
Both characters were the highlight, as well as few big moments. Like, definitely, I agree with you that. Even going back to, for example, the volume 2, the save by Hina from moments before disaster with Kotoko. That was fucking great moment. Holy hell.
Yeah.
Jesus, that was such a great moment. The way, for example, in Volume 1, Hina steps up and gets the information out of Ida by putting her in a literal corner and surrounding with dreads. Like, damn, what the hell? Those were good moments.
That was baller.
Exactly, it's baller. Exactly.
I think that was like a defining moment. That's like, oh, Hina, she is built for this whole criminal enterprise stuff.
Exactly. She is he has that street smarts, how to get something done. That's
Mhm.
okay, I get it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Ida was a pretty funny villain. Shinonome was an amazing villain.
Oh my god.
And yet...
Even Koji was great villain.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
be
he
honest.
was. You know, you really feel how this poor guy just got kicked around, treated like trash, and he finally got an end as deserving to himself, but you still feel a
If
little
anything,
sympathetic for him.
Exactly. If anything, the biggest mid boss was the Goro himself.
God. Goro, a guy who is the leader of the Umankai, and we just have to conjecture all of his motives.
Exactly. What the hell?
We just... Apparently, he was trying to destroy his own Umankai, and we will never understand why. Just take our word that Shinonome was doing a righteous cause, and just take our word that he was involved in killing off Hina, and take our word that he's gonna destroy the Umankai. I don't know what the heck happened with him.
I don't get it. Couldn't they make one big speech of his? I don't fucking know. That was weird. At the very least, the moment in which Tatsuya stabs him in the back, that was actually pretty fire. That was an epic moment,
But it was all because of Tatsuya and everything leading up to it. It was nothing about Goro being the victim.
Exactly. Yeah. It had nothing to do with Goro. And the other antagonist, quote unquote, of this volume, Brad, was... He existed, okay?
Yeah. Jeez. That's another. A huge part of our revenge plan is also on this one guy who we're never really going to mention beforehand.
Never, ever mention until everything is revealed. Then we'll mention it in the last, like, I think it was around 5 minutes mark before the end of game. Like, okay, cool. It's great reveal.
Great reveal, but I mean, maybe we could have set this up a little better. Just a little better, maybe.
Just, okay, cool. I mean, to be honest, that's the one moment of this story that completely surprised me. But that's kind of cheap given the fact that he spawned out of nowhere. He first appeared in one CG at the start of this volume, and then he's here. That's pretty much all of his involvement. Great.
Oh well. So what are your overall thoughts about Criminal Border? Would you recommend it to people?
No.
Okay.
No. Hell no. Like, and that's crazy coming from a person like me who says that payoff is the most important in VN, and I will endure a lot for a good payoff. This is not. This is such a disbalanced payoff, and I don't even know if there's a good payoff with a good ending, because the ultimate message of this VN is don't get into the criminal underworld, or else your life gets shit. Like, the ultimate conclusion is don't get involved.
I don't know. Wait a second. That's a good point to make. What is the moral? I think the moral along the line is revenge. As revenge is not good, and it will not end well. Which is a little funny when it comes to the ending and he's living his best life. So
after successfully getting his revenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the moral is that it's important to have good friends who will put you on the right path.
Yeah, sure, but that's okay, fine. And I get your point. Ultimately, you should have been involved. It's the final message. Don't do it, or bad things will happen, and then you chase revenge, and maybe you'll survive, and maybe not.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, even if the focus is all about revenge, then it's like, okay, well then what were we doing for the first 2 episodes? What was the point of that?
True. Exactly. Getting money, I guess.
Yeah. There's just, it bounces around a few times of what the goal is. Because there's a few things. It's about Itsuki trying to grow as a person. It's about him wanting to conquer his enemies. It's about him wanting to get revenge. And then it's about him, wanting to not lose his humanity. And there's a whole bunch of interesting themes along the way, and we stick to them to varying degrees. But overall, it's really murky. That's kind of the best way to describe Criminal Border, to be honest, is that it's a very murky story in so many different ways. Down from the individual scenes, to some of the plot points, to some of the overarching descriptions. It does not come across as clear and as clean as it should have. I'll tell you what Criminal Border is not about. It's not about a digital drug.
Okay. That's true. Yeah.
So much potential. Had a lot of potential. In some ways it measured up, but in too many ways, in my opinion, I don't think it did. I was really looking forward to Criminal Border. I thought it would be more of a thriller, you know? I thought we'd get those dangerous, sneering Yakuza guys around every corner. I thought we'd get the political maneuverings. I mean, we did get some, but more. I thought we would get to see that those sleazy nightclub kind of settings as our main character finds himself in a very different world. And a lot of that, I don't think they connected. It's like I said, we heard about plenty of these cool, fun, druggy screenings, but we didn't actually get to see any of it, so I'll just shrug.
Funny in retrospective, the closest you get to seeing the rave orgies and how it works in that one chibi H scene. That's the closest you got.
Of all the dudes going at it.
Yup. That's the closest you got.
Man. What could have been.
Speaking of about the thriller, I'm thrilled that I'm done with that, so I can move on.
That's true.
And I don't want to be overly negative. Like I said, and I mentioned some highlights. Meryl's volume was actually really nice. How we had that debt collecting, the way they couldn't communicate well because of the language barrier, as well as their different perspective. As you mentioned before, how she is not normal and shows her crazy approach. That was fire. When with Kotoko, you had a back and forth earning trust. So you proactively, as a protagonist, read from his perspective how he wants to earn her trust and is instructed by Rin to get it by any means necessary, if that even means using rave forcefully. But then it flips around when she does a bad choice, Kotoko, and now she loses the trust with you and tries to regain it. That was actually fire approach.
Yep. I'm glad for that.
The obstacles along the way were like, but we don't have funds, so we need to find investors. Shoji, for the 7th time, please help us to arrange something. Do we really need to keep meeting that guy to discuss a person, to then Meryl investigates that person, gives you crumbs to go, wow.
You really got the feeling that they just needed to keep this guy involved for every entry, just for the sake of being involved.
Let's be honest, he was mildly interesting, Shoji, especially once it came to light he's related to the old police head, which has a relation with the woman guy. Okay, that's vaguely interesting. Okay, I see how he's in the center of it all. Knows rich people, knows his grandpa, who knows Yakuza. Okay, I get that picture. But so many times he's involved in the most menial things. Please organize screening, get me money, don't make people leave, get some screenings, get me money, get me contacts. I'm like, where are we going with that?
Where are we going?
Can I trade Shoji scenes into more protagonists go onto the PC and create Rave 3.0?
If only. So then, if you had to rate every episode, favorite to least favorite, what would you be?
I think probably, and it's close, but my favorite probably is the fourth one, so the life sentence, but closely followed by the number 3, because holy shit, that plot twist with Hina's being dead and them definitely losing their minds with Tatsu and Itsuki, as well as creation of Nest. It was all in that volume. What was hype, but that hype has been killed by Shinonome resolution. That was immediate. That was pace killer.
I can't
So
ever
you had
forget
a very
that. What the hell?
yeah, that's crazy. You had a volume 3. You had a Meryl. You have to win her over because she's important asset. She is not only tied to Syndicate, but she herself is a very capable ally to have. You need to get over. But then you have language barrier and concept barrier of trying to get through her head. Before you say, Kudere bias, you hear blah, blah, blah. You go on vaguely interesting debt collector missions that aren't repeated problems with the club. In the meantime, you try to keep tabs on Shinonome doing some garbage tasks for him. And then you have a build-up that Shinonome took action when you weren't looking and Hina lost her life. Holy shit, that was a good build-up. But let's ruin that by immediately getting rid of Shinonome. What the fuck? Such a draw. That would easily win number 1, if not for this weird pace of revenge.
Man, I just asked you for your ordering of favorites and you went off.
Yeah. 4, 3, 2, 1. How about that?
Oh, interesting. I was thinking about it. I think I would have to give top marks to Third Offense. Just, again, entirely for that scene. That was so good at the end.
I completely got it. Like I said, it's barely 4 wins over. Barely.
Yeah, understandable. And then I would rate it, I liked 4. And I think I'd have to give the edge to 1, then 2.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, in the past, I said to you that when it comes to character development, I was the least impressed with Kotoko. Because it literally boils down to, I kind of knew that we were selling drug, but now I kind of came to terms with it. That's it. That's her character development.
Yeah, it gets weirder and weirder the farther Criminal Border goes along, and the more they embrace just flagrantly throwing free drugs everywhere.
Exactly.
Not free drugs, but in a sense, yeah.
And every single time they discuss something blatantly illegal, she has to chime in saying, I've came to terms with that. It's okay. I'll be evil too.
This is a necessary step for the future. Just trust us. That future will come along, and we won't see it, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that kind of...
I was the least...
2 kind of got worsened in hindsight. Yeah, you're right. Well, it's been a ride through Criminal Border, huh?
Yeah, I mean... We're... Maybe that's the weirdest place to say. I guess it's better than Geminism. So I hope on the third...
Oh, that's a criticism, dude. That's shit talking, man. If you say, "Oh, better than Geminism," oh man. Oh gosh.
Well, what else can I say? I mean, I hope the next title we pick up for the book club will iterate over and we slightly go up.
Yeah, we really know how to pick them for book clubs, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Either way, yeah.
Wait, wasn't you who proposed both of them? Can I blame it on you?
You probably could blame me for both.
Dang.
But hey, it takes 2 to tango.
That's true. I had them on backlog, right? So it's not like I'm off the hook completely.
Mm-hmm.
I had them both on backlog.
Mm-hmm. Well, Criminal Border was it's all in all, it was an interesting ride, although not every aspect of it was interesting. Overall, though, I mean, I guess I'm happy to say I read it. We did get that experience, and I am grateful for the time I spent, although there's a lot that I felt was lacking. And overall, if it was up to me, I would have changed many aspects of it. But unfortunately, I can't. If only.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
ultimately the hype moments were hype, and I'll fondly remember that when reading Volume 4, spammed Ange, telling him how the scenes will progress, and I was mostly right. Yeah, that was actually funny. Okay, that's a funny
Mhm.
thing to remember this by.
Regardless, still, thank you to everyone who's been listening along to us. Maybe if you've already read Criminal Border, or if you didn't really have any interest in the first hand and you just wanted to hear our thoughts about it along the way. Thank you very much to all of our listeners.
Exactly. Thanks to all our listeners. Please share in the comments what was your experience with Criminal Border, and spam Towers with another recommendation for the book club. And on that note, venture out.
Venture out.